That first hint of spring is in the air, you've got a stack of seed packets, and you're itching to get your hands dirty. But wait just a second. If you sow the wrong thing at the wrong time in March, you could be setting yourself up for a whole season of disappointment, wasted seeds, and frustration. Today, we're cutting through all of that confusion. We are sharing our ultimate battle-tested, proven list of what you absolutely must be sowing in March to guarantee success. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear, confident plan to get a massive head start on your most abundant garden ever, and we'll reveal the one vegetable that almost everyone plants too late, so you'll definitely want to stick around for that. So what makes March such a critical and sometimes tricky month for gardeners? It's the ultimate month of transition. We're moving from the dormancy of winter to the explosion of spring, but that transition can be a bumpy ride. You might get a week of beautiful sunny weather that screams, "Plant everything," followed by a surprise snowstorm or a hard frost. This is why the single most important piece of information for any gardener this month is your average last frost date. Everything we discussed today hinges on that date. March is about strategic sowing. It involves starting certain plants indoors under the protection of grow lights to give them a critical head start. It also involves direct sowing other, more cold-tolerant plants right into the garden soil as soon as it can be worked. Getting this balance right is the secret to unlocking the full potential of your growing season. All right, let's kick off our list with an undisputed champion of early spring: peas. Whether you prefer shelling peas, snow peas, or my personal favourite sugar snap peas, March is their time to shine. These plants are true lovers of cool weather. In fact, they despise the heat of summer. Planting them now allows them to grow and produce their sweet, crunchy pods before the summer temperatures soar and cause the plants to stop producing. For most regions, peas can be sown directly into the garden 4 to 6 weeks before your average last frost date. A great tip is to soak the seeds in water overnight before planting. You'll see them swell up, and this simple step dramatically speeds up germination. Imagine a visual of those plump, rehydrated seeds, ready to burst with life. Don't make the common mistake of waiting too long or forgetting their support. Get your trellis or fence in the ground at the same time you plant the seeds. They'll need it sooner than you think. Next up, let's talk about the foundation of any good spring salad: lettuce. March is the perfect time to start sowing lettuce for a continuous, season-long harvest. The key concept here is succession planting. Instead of planting one giant patch of lettuce all at once, you should sow a short row every 2 weeks starting in March. This strategy ensures you have a steady supply of fresh, tender leaves ready for picking, rather than a massive glut of lettuce that all matures at the same time and bolts in the heat. There are so many varieties to choose from loose-leaf types like Black Seed Simpson to crisp butterheads and colourful romaines. For a really early start, you can sow seeds in trays indoors and transplant them out later. But lettuce is also perfectly happy being sown directly in the garden as soon as the soil is workable. It's incredibly rewarding to harvest your own salad greens when store prices are still high. Now for a true nutritional powerhouse that thrives in the cool conditions of early spring: spinach. Much like lettuce, spinach is a fast-growing green that prefers the cooler temperatures of spring and fall. Planting it in March ensures you get a bountiful harvest before the long, hot days of summer arrive, which can cause the plant to bolt or go to seed, making the leaves bitter. You can start sowing spinach seeds directly in your garden beds about 4 to 6 weeks before your last expected frost. Plant the seeds about 1/2 inch deep and 1 inch apart, then thin the seedlings to about 4 to 6 inches apart once they have a few true leaves. This spacing gives them plenty of room to develop those large, tender leaves we all love. A pro tip is to choose a slow bolt variety if you live in an area with unpredictable spring weather, as this will give you a longer harvest window. It's a fantastic crop for getting fresh, iron-rich greens on your plate as early as possible. If you're looking for near-instant gratification in the garden, you absolutely must plant radishes. They are one of the fastest-growing vegetables you can possibly cultivate. With many varieties going from seed to harvest in as little as 30 days. This makes them a perfect crop for March sowing. You can tuck them in between slower growing plants like carrots or parsnips, a technique called intercropping. By the time the larger crops need the space, your radishes will have already been harvested and enjoyed. Sow the seeds directly in the garden, about ½ inch deep. They are not picky about soil, but they do appreciate consistent moisture for the best flavour and texture. Don't let the soil dry out, or you might end up with radishes that are woody or overly spicy. Like lettuce, they are also a great candidate for succession planting. Sow a small batch every 10 to 14 days for a continuous supply of that crisp, peppery crunch in your spring salads. Let's move on to some of the most resilient and productive greens in the garden. Kale and collard greens. These members of the brassica family are incredibly cold hardy. In fact, a light frost can actually improve their flavour, making the leaves sweeter and more tender. This makes them ideal candidates for an early March sowing directly in the garden. They are packed with vitamins and will continue to produce for an incredibly long time. You can harvest the outer leaves and the plant will keep generating new growth from its centre, giving you a cut-and-come-again harvest that can last for months. Imagine a visual of a beautiful, robust kale plant with its deep green, curly leaves. Sowing them in March gives them plenty of time to get established before the heat of summer and the arrival of pests like cabbage worms. If you want a non-stop supply of healthy greens for smoothies, salads and sautés, kale and collards are a must. For a splash of vibrant colour in both your garden and your kitchen, you can't beat Swiss chard. While it's a relative of spinach and beets, it's far more tolerant of both cold and heat, making it an incredibly versatile and reliable green. The bright lights, or Ford Hook giant varieties, are stunning, with stems that come in a rainbow of colours, including red, yellow, orange and pink. You can sow Swiss chard seeds directly into the garden 2 to 3 weeks before your last frost date. It's a very forgiving plant. Like kale, it's a cut-and-come-again crop. You can harvest the outer leaves throughout the season, and the plant will just keep producing from the centre. It's a fantastic 2-for-1 vegetable. The tender leaves can be used like spinach, and the crisp, colourful stems can be chopped and cooked like celery. Planting in March gets them off to a strong start for a season-long harvest. Now let's talk about playing the long game with a kitchen staple, onions. While many gardeners plant onion sets, which are small, immature bulbs, growing onions from seed is incredibly rewarding and gives you access to a much wider range of unique varieties. However, to get those big, beautiful bulbs by the end of the season, you need to start the seeds indoors, and March is the absolute latest you'll want to do it in most climates. Onions are daylight sensitive, and they need that long period of early growth to put on enough leafy green top growth, as each leaf corresponds to a ring on the onion bulb. So more leaves equals a bigger onion. Start them in a deep seed tray or pot indoors under grow lights. You can even give them a haircut with scissors when they get long and floppy to encourage stronger, stockier growth. It's a bit of extra work, but the payoff in flavour and size is well worth the effort. Sticking with the allium family, let's discuss the gourmet relative of the onion, the leek. Leeks are prized for their mild, sweet, onion-like flavour and are a star ingredient in soups, stews and gratins. Like storage onions, they require a very long growing season to reach a harvestable size. This means you absolutely must start them from seed, indoors in late winter or very early spring. March is your prime window. Sow the seeds in a deep container as they produce long roots. Let them grow indoors under lights until they are about the thickness of a pencil. When you transplant them out into the garden after your last frost, you'll plant them in a deep trench. As the leeks grow, you'll gradually fill in the trench with soil. This process, called blanching, keeps the lower part of the stem white, tender and delicious. Starting them now is the only way to ensure you'll be harvesting beautiful, thick leeks in the fall and winter. Let's shift gears to some larger brassicas that need a head start indoors, broccoli and cauliflower. These are classic cool weather crops, but they require a bit of planning to get right. If you plant them too late, they can button, meaning they form tiny, premature heads when the weather gets too hot. To avoid this, you need to start the seeds indoors about 6 to 8 weeks before your average last frost date, which puts a March start date right in the sweet spot for many gardeners. Sowing them in cell trays under grow lights now will give you strong, healthy transplants that are ready to go into the garden in April or May. This head start allows them to mature and form their delicious heads during the pleasant, cool weather of late spring and early summer, long before the summer heat stress can ruin your crop. This is a critical step for a successful broccoli and cauliflower harvest. Another cool season favourite that benefits immensely from an indoor start in March is cabbage. Whether you're dreaming of crunchy coleslaw, tangy sauerkraut, or savoury stuffed cabbage rolls, growing your own is incredibly satisfying. Much like its cousins, broccoli and cauliflower, cabbage needs to mature before the intense heat of summer sets in. Starting the seeds indoors in March, about 6 weeks before your last frost, provides the perfect timeline. This gives you robust little seedlings to transplant into the garden while the weather is still cool and mild. This early start ensures the plants have plenty of time to form those dense, heavy heads. There are so many wonderful varieties to try, from classic green and red types to the beautiful and crinkly Savoy cabbage. Getting these seeds started now is your ticket to a perfect spring cabbage harvest. Okay, this is the big one. If you plan to grow only one thing from seed indoors, it has to be tomatoes. For the vast majority of gardeners, March is the absolute prime time to start tomato seeds indoors. These beloved plants are the quintessential summer crop, and they need a significant head start to produce a bountiful harvest during your growing season. Starting them 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date is the universal rule of thumb. This gives the seeds time to germinate and grow into strong, stocky seedlings that are ready to take off once they're planted in the warm garden soil after all danger of frost has passed. Starting them now means you'll be harvesting ripe, juicy, homegrown tomatoes weeks earlier than if you waited to buy small plants from a nursery. This is non-negotiable for a great tomato season. Right alongside tomatoes, we have their nightshade companions, peppers. This includes everything from sweet bell peppers in all their glorious colours to a vast world of hot peppers, from mild jalapenos to fiery habaneros. Just like tomatoes, peppers are heat-loving plants that require a long, warm growing season. In fact, they can be even more slow to get going than tomatoes, often taking longer to germinate and growing more slowly in their early stages. Because of this, starting them indoors is not just a suggestion, it's a necessity in most climates. You should aim to sow your pepper seeds indoors 8 to 10 weeks before your last frost date. This extra long head start is crucial for giving the plants enough time to mature and produce a heavy crop of peppers before the season ends. So get those pepper seeds sown in March and maybe use a heat mat to speed up germination, as they love warm soil. Let's complete the trifecta of popular heat-loving nightshades with eggplant. Whether you love the classic large Italian varieties for eggplant parmesan or the long, slender Asian types perfect for stir-fries, eggplant demands a long, hot summer. It is arguably the most heat-dependent of the three. It will sulk in cool weather and needs that sustained warmth to truly thrive and be productive. For this reason, just like peppers, they need an extra early start indoors. Sowing eggplant seeds in March, a full 8 to 10 weeks before your last frost date, is the key to success. This gives these slow-growing plants the ample time they need to develop a strong root system and sturdy frame indoors, so when they are finally transplanted into the hot summer garden, they are primed and ready to grow and produce those beautiful, glossy fruits. Don't wait on this one. An early start is critical. Now let's talk about the perfect companion for those tomatoes you just started. Basil. This quintessential summer herb is famous for its role in pesto, capri salads, and countless Italian dishes. Basil loves heat just as much as tomatoes do, and it is extremely sensitive to cold and frost. There is absolutely no point in trying to sow basil directly in the garden in March. It's just too cold. Instead, you should start basil seeds indoors right alongside your tomatoes and peppers about 6 weeks before your last frost date. They germinate quickly and grow into beautiful little plants. This way, you will have healthy, well-established basil plants ready to be transplanted into the garden, containers, or window boxes at the same time as your tomatoes. They are said to improve the flavour of tomatoes when planted nearby, and having a fresh supply all summer is a true culinary delight. Beyond basil, March is an excellent month for starting a wide variety of other herbs. Many herbs can be slow to germinate or grow, so giving them an indoor head start is a fantastic idea. Think about herbs like parsley, both the curly and flat leaf varieties, which can take a notoriously long time to sprout. Starting them indoors now ensures you have usable plants much earlier. Other herbs like oregano, thyme, and marjoram also benefit from an indoor start. On the other hand, some cool weather-loving herbs like cilantro and dill can actually be sown directly in the garden in late March in many areas, as they tend to bolt in the summer heat. So, take stock of your favourite culinary herbs. The woody, perennial types and the slow sprouters should be started inside, while the fast-growing, cool-season annuals can be sown outside as your last frost date approaches. Let's bring some beauty and fragrance to the garden by talking about flowers. First up is a classic cool-season flower with an intoxicating scent, sweet peas. It's important to clarify, these are not the edible peas we talked about earlier. These are purely for ornamental beauty and fragrance. Sweet peas, much like their edible cousins, thrive in cool weather and should be planted early. For many gardeners, March is the perfect time to get them started. You can sow them directly in the ground where they are to grow, as they don't love being transplanted. Soaking the seeds overnight, just like with edible peas, can help speed up germination. Be sure to plant them along a trellis, fence, or other support structure that they can climb. The reward will be a stunning display of delicate, ruffled blooms in a wide array of colours that will fill your garden with an unforgettable perfume in late spring and early summer. If you're craving instant colour to chase away the winter blues, you should absolutely be planting pansies and violas. While you often buy these as small plants from the nursery, they are quite easy to grow from seed, provided you start them early enough. For spring blooms, the seeds actually need to be started indoors as early as January or February. So for March, this tip is more about the small plants you can buy. March is the perfect time to plant these nursery-grown starts out in your containers and garden beds. They are incredibly cold tolerant and can handle light frost with ease, making them the perfect flower to provide that first splash of cheerful colour in the garden while you wait for your other seeds to grow. They will bridge the gap beautifully between the end of winter and the true arrival of spring. Now for a flower that is both beautiful and incredibly useful, the marigold. Marigolds are workhorses in the vegetable garden. They are famous for their ability to deter pests, both above and below the soil, particularly nematodes that can damage the roots of plants like tomatoes. To get the most out of their pest-repelling abilities, you want them to be a good size when you transplant your vegetables. Therefore, starting marigold seeds indoors in March, about 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost, is a brilliant strategy. It's incredibly easy. They germinate quickly and grow into sturdy little plants. By the time you're ready to plant out your tomatoes and peppers, you'll have a ready supply of marigolds to tuck in amongst them, creating a beautiful and functional companion planting arrangement that benefits your entire garden ecosystem. For gardeners who want a massive explosion of continuous colour all summer long with minimal fuss, you must start zinnias. Zinnias are the definition of a cheerful, easy-to-grow flower. They come in every colour imaginable, attract pollinators like bees and butterflies to your garden, and make fantastic, long-lasting cut flowers for bouquets. While you can direct sow them after the last frost, starting them indoors in March, about 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date, will give you blooms much earlier in the season. They are incredibly simple to start from seed and will grow into strong transplants. Getting them started now means that just as your spring blooming flowers are starting to fade, your zinnias will be ready to take over, providing a non-stop riot of colour all the way until the first frost of fall. It's a high-impact, low-effort flower that every garden should have. Finally, let's cover the most important category for March, the Don't You Dare Plant This Yet list. It is just as important to know what not to sow as it is to know what to sow. This category includes all the fast-growing, heat-loving summer vegetables. I'm talking about cucumbers, all types of summer and winter squash, melons and beans. The biggest mistake a new gardener can make is getting overeager and starting these seeds indoors in March along with their tomatoes. These plants grow incredibly fast and absolutely hate having their roots disturbed. If you start them now, by the time it's safe to plant them outside in late May or June, they will be huge, overgrown and root-bound in their pots. They will suffer from terrible transplant shock and will be outperformed by seeds that were sown directly in the garden at the proper time. Be patient. Their time will come in April or May, but for now, keep those seed packets safely stored away. So there you have it. From those cool weather greens and peas sown directly in the garden soil to getting that critical head start on heat-loving tomatoes, peppers and eggplants indoors, your March sowing plan is now officially locked and loaded. The single biggest takeaway from all of this is that March isn't just about planting, it's about strategic planting. It's about understanding the individual needs of each plant and working with the rhythm of the season, not against it. Getting this month right is the secret that separates a good garden from a truly spectacular, abundant one. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If you got some real value from this list, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps our channel grow. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming April planting guide. Now we really want to hear from you. What is the #1 plant you are most excited to get in the soil this March? Drop your answer in the comments below. We'd love to chat with you about your garden plans.